Hello, everyone. Back again. I hope you guys had a good Friday. It's been a rainy Friday here. Actually, it's been a rainy week. Uh, uh, Still not got all my partial hay bind, but we'll get it. We like about 30 acres of hay having our first cutting up, but we can't do nothing about Mother Nature. We went through a drought. Now we're getting rain, so I better have the rain on the pasture. So I'm glad God put no rain down. I know a lot of places in North Carolina need rain. But what I want to talk about today is it has begun and can we stop it? What do I mean about that? Well, the rise of Muslim and communism in this country. I seen in New York the other day where this big so-called YouTuber was in the streets of these people. All these Muslims are shouting, you know, death to America and death to Israel. And you had this guy on there in a crowd shouting that this was Madami's New York and it was New Yorkistan and uh, America will every house in America will be Muslim and praise Muhammad. That it was no longer America, it was Americaistan. They was here to take over and they was going to take over. Well, they ain't crossed the mountain. We still raise good hogs here, if you know what I mean. But are there enough people? Are there enough of us to stand up and stop this? Uh, I think people are scared that, that to get on these platforms that be called racist or white supremacist or whatever, or maybe afraid that they'll be attacked. I mean, these these communist liberals, these blue haired, green haired, nose ring wearing, indoctrinated young people, they really they have no. I don't guess they care. I don't know how I can word that. They don't care about life. Uh, they don't care if somebody's killed or some woman is raped or some child is raped and stabbed and by illegal. They have no morality. There's no more morality in these young people. A lot of it comes from the way they're raised. A lot of it comes from indoctrination of schools and colleges. Uh, you know, the morality in this country is gone. I seen in Arkansas where a community was on the verge of voting in Sharia law, which I mean it's not constitutional in this country. I mean, but their claim is that their faith, our laws, they don't have to go by our laws. They come in this country, they go by Sharia law, their laws, their home country, whatever. They don't recognize the Constitution of the United States. They don't recognize their laws. And that's who these communist Democrats are protecting in these big cities. I don't see how that we can allow this. People, we're going to have to be our own citizen journalists because we got Google, we got other platforms that we can Google these candidates. You can see if they don't try to change a law, or you can't see how they're financed and who backs them. But they tried that here in Virginia to make a law where you couldn't see who was backing the attorney general or the governor, and I think maybe the legislature, can't remember. They tried to make a law, implement laws. Look at California, tried to implement a law that a reporter couldn't investigate corruption. We're on the verge of taxation with no representation. You know, when the Governor Spanberger took control of Virginia and the Democratic Communist legislature, first thing he did was implement a new gas tax. Up the gas tax, up taxes to pay for their pet projects and their illegal aliens, their voter bloc. Sanctuary City, protect the illegals. They don't care if they rape a 9-year-old child and kill them. They don't care if your wife, your daughter, your niece, your granddaughter is grabbed from the bus stop and killed and raped. They're going to protect the illegal. And then they've proven they've done it. You know, I've been watching some of this stuff on Charlie Kirk assassination. Do you remember back when he was assassinated and how those communist Democrats refused to have silence, to have prayer, to mention his name? They went on the attack on the mainstream media. The Southern-in-law Party of Justice had him on a list of white supremacy, all this junk, and comes out a year later that the Southern Power of Law Justice is corrupt as shit and paying Nazis to get out on the streets to cause trouble. I mean, you can't you can't make this stuff up. It makes for a good movie. It has begun, but are there enough of us to stand up and stop it? I wonder sometimes why people sit back and they don't do more. They don't get out and vote. I hear a lot of creators say voting don't matter no more. Well, if you look at mail-in voting, you sort of got to agree with them a little bit because you go and give your vote, and the legal comes along, nullifies your vote, and then there's a county a set back away, seeing how many votes they need, and all of a sudden at the last minute there's a big mail-in ballot drop, and it's all 100% in the way that they needed the vote to go. Then they come out and they say, "Oh, there's something wrong here. We're going to do an investigation." But the investigation is stopped, and you never hear another word of it. It's never mentioned on the mainstream media. So what do? Well, we start by investigating for our own on Google. You can Google anybody anymore. All these politicians, you can find out where their money's coming from. But we just got to be willing to do it. We got to be willing to hold them accountable. Uh, we're going to have to take a stand in this country. We're all going to have to take a stand together and put a stop to this. We're going to have to fight back from your local board of supervisors right on up to the state house and right on up to the Senate, Congress, governor, president. You know, you better thank the good Lord upstairs that we sort of got a Republican Congress Senate, and we do have President Trump up there. Because we didn't, your gun rights would be gone. And most of your rights would be gone, and we would be in communist control. We would probably be somewhere in this country. They would be probably fighting in the streets, and that's where they want it to head. But we got to be smart enough not to play their game. We've got to fight them the right way. We've got to stand up in one voice and say no. Say no to a lot of these taxes. No to a lot of these laws. They can't enforce it if enough of us stand up and say no. They can't put a million people in jail. They can't put 70, 80 million people in jail that stand up together in one voice and say no. You know, a lot of people are afraid to get on here and put their voice out there because being called a racist and a white supremacist, and it is dangerous. You know, when I first started, I had a few inches cut here and there, and you got to be able to thick skin because let me tell you, these people come out of the woodwork and they'll call you anything, threaten your family, threaten your livelihood. I mean, but we can't let that stop us. We have to stay strong and stand together. We've got to protect our farming community. That's national security. Our food security is national security. We've got to protect our farms and ranches, especially our family farms and ranches. They're trying to destroy us, little by little. But it has begun. Can we stop it? Is the question I have for you. Will you stand up and fight for your children and grandchildren in your country as your forefathers did as they went off to war in World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam, right on up to Iran where we're at today? Will you stand up and support the people who are protecting your freedom today on those battleships and aircraft carriers right now that's engaged in battle to save our way of life? You know, it's funny, the mainstream media and the people of Iran want the mullahs out. Every time a bomb is dropped, you can get on social media, you can see those people cheering. And when it's translated into English, to bring it on, more bombs. They want their freedom. They have suffered almost 50 years of just pure destruction of their country. They're not allowed, if they protest, they hang them and they shoot them and they kill them. That's coming right here in this country. If these places get their Sharia law in communities, you hear these Muslims say they're here to take over. Take them at their word, people. They are serious. Now, that being said, I've got a lot more I'd like to say, but I'll just stop here. It has begun, people. Can we stop it? If the good Lord's willing, I'll see you next time. May God bless your family, each and every one of you in your family. Thank you for watching. God bless.